Allow me for a moment to take you back to the inception of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. I wonder how many of you today still remember a speech made by the president of Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky, at the inception of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In his speech, he urged Ukrainians to rise up, take up arms, and defend the republic. You would recall at a time that the men that were trying to flee with their families were stopped at the borders and separated with their families while they go and fight in the conflict. Now, I am not sure what the process was followed to integrate these so-called citizens or civilians into the armed forces of Ukraine. But if that process was not followed, then we are sitting with a huge problem in terms of the involvement of citizens, or particularly civilians, in the conflict with Russia. Now, the challenge is this. The law of armed conflict is clear. Combatants fight combatants. Only combatants have a right to fight. Only combatants. This right is not extended to civilians in a country. So when citizens have an uprising, what the concept called levy en masse, there's a sudden uprising in the country, and citizens pick up arms, and citizens are actively participating in the armed conflict. Unfortunately, the result is that they will be declared to be directly participating in hostilities. They will suddenly now become military objectives and therefore subject of direct attack by the Russians. And when the Russians directly then attack civilians who are directly involved in hostilities, that would be lawful action. Unfortunately, people that see, for example, civilian casualties will neglect this issue that I'm raising today. Now, the question is, the government of Ukraine encouraging citizens, civilians to rise up, take up arms, and fight in the conflict must reconcile themselves with the risk and the consequences of making such a reckless submissions or statements or encouragement to their citizens. In other words, they must reconcile themselves with the fact that citizens will be increasingly attacked who are DPH, and that is unfortunately the law in the world.